Hey guys, wanted to give an update on my current build. I am a level 80 Druid right now, so been playing for a while. I haven't seen many people using my build though, so if y'all want to play something that's not Pulverize or Storm Wolf, then here's what I'm rocking. First I'll kind of explain the objective of the build so it kind of makes sense. This is primarily a Trample slide build, and the focus is on reducing the cooldown of Trample as much as possible. So how do we do that? With this aspect here. When Nature's Fury key passive triggers as free skill, your non-ultimate cooldowns of the opposite type are reduced by 11. I didn't get a perfect roll. I'm looking for one. So, Nature's Fury, let me go into talents. This, casting an Earth skill, has a 20% chance to trigger a free Storm skill, and for Storm skills, there's a 20% chance to trigger a free Earth skill. So basically, we cast Earth skills, there's a chance to reduce the cooldown on our Storm skills and vice versa. So, the goal, all of our abilities are essentially our cooldowns, except for Wind Shear. That's for filler. If we happen to run out of cooldowns and there's no triggers, you could just fire off Wind Shears and it will refresh the cooldown of your Earth abilities after a few throws, usually, depending on how unlucky you are. So there's Earthen Bulwark, Hurricane, Boulder, Trample, and Cyclone Armor. All cooldown abilities. I don't even have any spenders in this build. And let me go through the skills real quick just to show you how I did this. 1 into Wind Shear. This is only for proccing my cooldowns, for refreshing them, essentially. I did put 1 into the movement speed because if I am using Wind Shear, it means all my stuff is on cooldown and I'm running away, so it helps me escape faster. Max out Landslide. This is your biggest damage ability. It's procced by Trample Slide. You don't want anything into its passives because if you don't have it on your bar, you won't get the passives. And we're not actually putting this on our bar. We're only getting the benefit from Trample Slide, which is another aspect that I forgot to show you. Right here. Trample summons 6 landslide pillars. So I'll go into all the aspects here in a minute, but that was the key one. So after that, 1 into Hurricane. Enemies affected deal 20% less damage. Less damage, good. Hurricane, it slows people and it's a cooldown, so win-win. Boulder, another cooldown. It's a low cooldown too, which is great. Does decent damage and decent CC. I found myself saving myself quite a bit with that Boulder. At first I was on the fence, but I've grown to like Boulder quite a bit. And I almost always have max Fortify, so Boulder has 20% increased crit chance. Not bad. Max out Trample for a little more damage. And you don't really need to. You could put those somewhere else if you really want, but it's not too shabby. Put Trample grants Fortify. We don't need Spirit because we don't have Spirit to use. Crushing Earth skills deal more damage. Nice. We get Fortify, more damage. Nice. Over here, all of these, more damage. More damage, more better. Good. Fortify. I don't know if this is really needed. We have so much Fortify, but it helps. And then, of course, Nature's Fury, and I think I didn't mention, but I do max out Earthen Bulwark for big shield and more damage. So, there's my talents. Let me go through the critical aspects. The most important ones I already showed you. You absolutely need Nature's Fury. Key passive triggers a free skill. The build will not work without that. You also need Trample now summons 6 landslide pillars, or otherwise the build won't work. So, required. And you want to put this one on a weapon, a two-handed weapon, because you really need that power to be big and juicy. So, that's what you want. Besides that, my other aspects, this one, landslides, earth pillars, each strike a second time. When you want to progress higher, that is a requirement. But while leveling, if you happen to find the other one sooner, you can do fine without that. But you will want this eventually. I have this one, skills deal up to 15%, goes up to 20 damage based on primary resource. I don't have any generator or spenders, so I always have 100% resource. It's just free damage, so I picked that. I wouldn't say it's a requirement, but it helps. There's that one. This one gained 20% amount to my Earthen Bulwark. This is a very heavily, this build uses Earthen Bulwark a lot because my cooldown on Earthen Bulwark is reduced constantly, so it's very low cooldown ability. I'm using it for damage and for survivability, so bumping that up is nice. And then for the same reason I have this one, it makes it last 9 seconds. And that 9 seconds is really important because Earthen Bulwark grants unstoppable, and you want to be unstoppable in the end game here, because if you're not, you're probably dead. You're getting CC'd all the time, so very important. I have deal increased damage with a barrier. I always have a barrier because of the Earthen Bulwark. Again, a lot of synergy there. Increased armor is nice, makes you live better. Not a requirement, but if you like living, it's pretty good. When you have fortify, Earth skills gain +2 ranks. That's just Earth skills gain 2 ranks, essentially. We're always fortified. So that's my aspects. And I'll quickly go through the Paragon. I know this is a lot. My Paragon isn't like super perfect. I know I'm not some sort of genius doing all the math, but I'll kind of quickly go through the key things. You know, go for the rare nodes that increase damage. I went for this one as max life, so it was just right there, so I thought that was easy. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but damage. For the glyphs, I'm going for this one. And crit damage with core skills. That's a good one. And then I went up into this tree here to get Earth skills deal increased damage. That's pretty nice. Everything is affected by crowd control because of the hurricane, essentially. I use the vulnerable damage glyph. And then this one's also nice because it will make the enemies vulnerable when you first hit them. So if you use Trample, when you go through them, they'll become vulnerable. And then your Trample, the landslide part will hit them and it'll do more damage. So that one's really nice. And then there's a whole lot of Earth skill damage in this corner, so I would recommend stopping by there. And then there's Earth skill damage, right, or critical strike with Earth. So this is a great little board. Next, I went over here. I didn't bother with the legendary node, although it has potential if you have a bunch of like extra poison damage on your items. I'm not sure, but I did want the damage to crowd controlled enemies, nature damage, and then I'm working on this glyph. I need a little bit more levels to finish it, but almost there. So that's my Paragon. I'll show you a little combat, and you can see how this build works. To kind of understand my rotation, you just kind of slam the keyboard. No, you can if you're lucky enough, but you want to pop barrier first usually, and then trample in, and then boulder, and then you want to use your storm skills to refresh the cooldowns on that. You see my Earthen Bulwark and trample right back up. Now if you ever are like this and everything's on cooldown, wind shear a couple times. Okay, that's unlucky. Okay, there we go. It took like 4 tries, and then my cooldowns came back up. So that's for filler. Alright, this looks like a good fight. So this is actually a good fight to highlight some of the difficulties. Okay, maybe not because I wrecked those guys. Alright, big shrine. Perfect. Sometimes these shrines can be a little awkward depending on RNG because it is a cooldown build. If you don't get like cooldown refreshes, sometimes you can't get the waves in time. If you get cooldown refreshes, sometimes it's insanely fast too, so works both ways. Also, this is a really hard, tiny room to trample in, but sometimes that's a good thing too. Alright. And a great time to rebuild your cooldown or refresh your cooldowns is after like waves like that. So like right now, just auto attack. You don't have to hit anybody. As long as you're auto attacking, you will refresh your cooldowns. Oh, whoopsies. That's why unstoppable is important. I just got frozen while I wasn't paying attention, and you saw I was able to break out of it and then recover with a healing potion. So if you're ever like me and you don't pay attention while you're playing the game, it's pretty good. Alright, here's a boss fight. So I'm gonna, in a boss fight, Boulder and Earthen Bulwark are really big parts of your damage. Sometimes, okay, so that's a little unlucky. I'm not proccing my cooldowns. Sometimes that'll happen. Okay, so there's some cooldowns. See if they proc this time a little faster. There we go. This is more of an AoE build than a single target, but with some luck, you can still do really big single target damage. You see, so now I'm getting more procs. And he dies really fast. So depending on how lucky you are, they'll die real fast, or they can die a little slower. If you don't get procs, you'll have to spam your auto attack a little bit more to proc them a few more times. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.